All right, so he leadeth me. Yeah, I'm going to tell you. I mean, we already know the answer to that question, right? People are probably using the same hymn book that we have. He leadeth me. By his own hand he leadeth me. And we know who that is. But I want to talk about the subject because I think some people have an idea about their role of leadership in and amongst the Lord's people that is questionable, and I want to examine this. I want to tell a story first, though, that sets the stage for the things I want to speak about in a few minutes. And the story is it's a story about the city of Florence, Italy. I know a lot of people know something about Florence. I'm going to say the things I want to say about Florence, which is that during the middle of the 15th century and up until the early part of the 17th century, in other words, from around the middle of the 1400s right up until the early part of the 1600s, Florence, Italy exploded with knowledge and with artistic achievement like no place on earth ever has before. And you'll remember some of these names who were associated with that explosion of knowledge and achievement. Leonardo da Vinci, who was, famous for painting the Mona Lisa, but he wasn't just an artist. He was a mathematician, an inventor, an engineer. And Leonardo da Vinci made his living basically as a military engineer, conceiving of machines of war. Not that many people recognize him for that. Michelangelo Buonarroti, and who sculpted the Pietà and the David, and who painted the Sistine Chapel. If you ever saw the Pietà, it would change your life. And then we have Galileo Galilei. Galileo was, I don't know exactly what people might remember him for, but he was a physician, a physicist, an astronomer, a mathematician. He was what we call a polymath. He was a brilliant genius. Also, a person that very few people have ever heard of, Filippo Brunelleschi, who was responsible for the creation of the dome on the cathedral in Florence, which is a pointed arch. It's referred to as the Duomo in Florence. It's the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. And even after 600 years have passed now, it is still a marvel of architecture and engineering because it's a mystery as to how it was even done, even today. So these contributions that Florence made to the world, to the knowledge of mankind, the aura of achievement is still in the air. And the Florentines can feel that because their city is filled with thousands of people from all over the world every day. And those Florentines are not coming to visit your city. You're going to visit their city. And that's understandable. Of course, there are trinkets and tourist traps and little models of the Duomo and for sale everywhere. But some of the Florentines have kind of a little bit of a smug feeling about being a Florentine. But I would point out, and I can understand that too, that's fine. But we would point out to them, if we were going to be indiscreet, that they didn't actually have anything to do with this. They just live in Florence. So I'm referring to this as the Florentine phenomena, or the Florentine syndrome, something like that, okay? And so now I'm going to talk about where we just talked about this explosion of information and achievement from Florence. Where do we get the information that the Lord wants us to have? And I want to talk about that. And I'm going to light up my screen sharing in 1 second here, if I could do that. Now, hopefully, Brother Adam's bad luck there is not going to affect me. Let's see what happens. All right, and I want to use this. Let's see, I want presentation mode, right? I have to put on my glasses, excuse me. Use presenter view. All right, so what are we seeing? We're seeing my chart. Chart of the ages. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is a chart we're all pretty familiar with, I think. And I'm not using this chart.
Excuse me, Brother Jerry, just down in the bottom, your bottom right-hand corner, there's that thing that looks like a little podium. Just click on that.
Here we go. How's that?
That's better.
Glad we got at least one Zoom expert on board here. So here's the chart. And when we're talking about the Lord providing information to us, then we start way over here on the left-hand side, and we are looking at this little pyramid at the bottom. That's the N is the plane of human perfection. I think we've all seen this chart maybe 1,000 times already. There's Adam down there, the little human perfect pyramid. And this is approximately 4128 BC, this left-hand line. Now, when we move all the way from the beginning to this end of this little arch that's called the patriarchal age, I will comment that during this period, beginning with Adam and progressing through many other people named in the scriptures, Enoch, Noah, here's the flood, these two little lines here is the flood, Abraham and others, that God spoke directly to people when he wanted to say something. We don't know how that worked because we weren't there, but the Bible tells us that God communicated with these people. And Moses is over here at the end of this line. Moses is the last person whom we would regard as having been in direct communication with the main heavenly office. He was out in the desert and he saw this burning bush and he was told, you ever been in a courtroom and the bailiff will say, the judge is going to come in, and before the judge comes in, he says, all rise. Pretty sober moment. Everybody has to stand up before the judge comes in. Moses gets near the burning bush and he's told, take off your shoes, Moses. Instead of all rise, he's told, take off your shoes. So all the way up until this part where we reach the beginning of this Jewish age on this chart, and I think you can maybe see my mouse where the mouse is there. That was the arrangement. Now, Moses is commissioned as a leader in Israel, and he's commissioned to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. And I looked back, you know, leaky vessel, major leaky vessel here. I looked back. We had spent, as I opened this thing to check the dates in here, this is the 11th Epiphany volume. We spent 5 years looking at the Brother Johnson's exhaustive dive into Moses, type and antitype. And Moses, who said to the people of Israel, God will raise up a prophet from among you, like unto me, hear him, okay? Moses types, as a leader, Moses types only one person in history, Jesus. Moses types Jesus lots of different ways, but he only types one person as a leader, and that is, he types Jesus. So during this Jewish age here, through the period, if you can see where this little cursor is here, through the period of the judges and the kings, all the way up to the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD by the Romans. The information that is coming to God's people is coming through the prophets, of whom we are well aware: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel, all the minor prophets. And we're familiar with most of the important information that they brought to the people of Israel, because it's in our minds prominently how Isaiah outlined who Jesus was and how he would suffer for us, and how Ezekiel, I'm not sure everybody's remembers this the way I do, but in the 38th chapter of Ezekiel, I can't remember who just mentioned second phrase of Jacob's trouble, which is going to be coming, but there's kind of a hair-raising account in the 38th chapter of Ezekiel of that a bloody war, what it's going to be. So the prophets are delivering the information that the Lord wants people to have during this gospel age. And then we get to this spot here where all these overlapping. And I think, as we recognize, none of these ages opens and closes with a thunderclap. They kind of overlap a little bit. It's like watercolors. They bleed through a little bit into each other. So when you get to this harvest area right here, and we're going to say this is a time where Brother Russell begins his work. And I don't actually have a date for that. Brother Russell, he died in 1916 in the fall, but I tried to see if I could identify a date where he began work, but I really couldn't find one. I know somebody that's listening to me right now probably knows. But there in right here, Brother Russell, followed by Brother Johnson, who is a legitimate successor to him as an operator in the truth and a disseminator of the truth. There is your Florentine explosion, so to speak, right here. Because let me see if I can get my next. All right, so I wanted to mention something at the beginning of this, which is the next slide here, because when Jesus shows up in his first advent, it is he who establishes the new dissemination of information, the Gospels and the epistles. And we read that in Hebrews, the first chapter, verse 1. God, who at sundry times in diverse manners spake in the past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son. So this is the method of dissemination of information during the gospel age. And at the end of the gospel age, we find Brother Johnson and Brother Russell and Brother Johnson working, disseminating the Parousia and Epiphany truth. So as far as the information that we have, if I had a Bible right handy, and I do, I would hold it up and I would say, this is the sum total of what we have as far as information by which we are to be led. And the third and fourth to the last, the fourth and third to the last verses of the book of Revelation say, to paraphrase, don't add anything to this book and don't take anything away from it. And that goes for the entire Bible. It's God's revelation, and we are to not fool with it. The scribes of the Israelites were so careful. They had lots of warnings about don't mistake even a punctuation mark when you're copying this stuff, because that's how important it is. So now we look at Matthew 24:45, and we recognize that this, from long study and examination of the features of history as it respects church history, that is, we recognize that this faithful and wise servant who was made a ruler over the master's household was bringing meat in due season and is identified as Brother Russell. And then when we further consider the dissemination of truth at the end of the gospel age during this Florentine explosion of truth that happened on the gospel, on the scene of the Christian church, of the Lord's people, we recognize. Oh, sorry. We recognize that there's a legitimate and very carefully outlined type which demonstrates the relationship between Brother Russell and Brother Johnson, which is found in the passing of the mantle from Elijah to Elisha. This is in volume 3, page 35, and it's in many other places. So now I want to ask a question about this thing that happens at this point during the gospel age. The tabernacle picture at this point in time shows us that, and 60 posts that are holding up the curtain are the 60 groups of faith justified ones. And this passes from the gospel, from the Perusia into the Epiphany, from a point where there's Epiphany Levites involved in these groups at, when the Epiphany is underway and at its closing. We're not closed yet, but these 60 posts, as Brother Johnson writes here, represent the 60 groups of truth people. And the first two that we could mention that were, and I don't know who they are. I don't think anybody really does. There's lots of names that you could propose. I know two for a fact. I think we all know them. One of is the Jehovah's Witnesses is one of these panels or one of these groups here, because Brother Rutherford, J.F. Rutherford, managed to maintain control of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society from the legal standpoint. And they began publishing the truth on their own. And they don't forget something about all these truth groups, even though they differ in some of the details of what they believe, they all have LDH, right? Life, death, hereafter, with some variations. For example, if you talk with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they would tell you some things that you might not believe, like they don't think Adam is going to be resurrected, stuff like that. But basically, everybody has life, death, and hereafter correct in these truth groups. Another one of these groups was formed by Brother Johnson, the Layman's Home Missionary Movement. And then if you wanted to start naming names of other groups that you think might have been involved, you might name the Chicago Bible Students at Dawn and so forth, but I don't know how you could research that. So this all happened as an immediate response to the fracturing of the truth after Brother Russell's death. And I'm not really sure. Let's see, I have to share a different screen, but I want to share this other screen. So far, I haven't had too much of a hiccup, right? Let's see. Let me share this screen. Do you see this, this list here on the left? Am I sharing that screen or not?
You're sharing your PowerPoint presentation screen right now.
Do you see this list on the left and with this?
Number 7.
All right, I got to share this screen. New share. Okay, I'm on it. I told you not to put me behind Brother Adam. All right, where's this? Let me see if this is the one. Do you see a list of PDFs on the left? Okay. All right, so now I was asking myself, where did all these, where did all these people go? You see that? Okay. I have my wife helping me out over here. She's going to monitor my screen. So I just looked around online. I thought I have to hide this little screen there. There we go. All right. So I started to look. Now I spent 35 minutes only on this. I thought, let me see if I can find some of these. Whatever happened to all these groups? I don't know. Who are they? Where are they? So I looked for people who had posted a convention schedule online that indicated that they were looking at Perusia and Epiphany truth. And that would be indicated by the contents of the schedule or the cross and crown. Okay, so I just started looking around. I have 43 of these. I don't know that much about these people, except for that I know that when you go and mount a convention and you're inviting people, some of them are Zoom meetings, and where they have to travel and you have, you know, hotel times and all that stuff. I mean, that means that there's a wider scope of people involved, and they go and meet at the hotel like we're used to. They're from all over the place, Phoenix, Austin, Albuquerque. Some that I could find did not have, they obviously had conventions scheduled, but they didn't have you know, a PDF that you could download. They had information online, Boaz, Alabama, Central Kentucky. Some of these groups, like one of them that I saw, Central Pennsylvania, was huge. I mean, they had 5-day thing with events for days and days and days. So what I'm trying to say about this is that when you have, all right, so nobody really knows what happened to all these truth groups. Oh, here's that one that I just mentioned. This is huge. They're doing this at the University of Pittsburgh and Johnstown. And it's like, I don't know, it's 20 pages long. It's 20 pages, 5 days, and they have all these people. And I notice also that some of the ones in the Northeast, we're in New England. Some of those have names of people that are serving, or people that I know. So Sacramento. See, I don't want to bore you with looking at all these things, but you have to understand that if I found 43 of these in 35 minutes, what would I find if I spent a day? So I think that what I'm saying is that there is, you know, if we are insulated from exposure to the wider realm of truth in its operations, you know, we can begin to get some kind of inbred thinking about our station in life. And if we are, I'm trying to stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing. If we are a group, a truth group, in close proximity to the Parousia and Epiphany beginnings, we might have a kind of a skewed opinion of our importance. We might announce, as I know some have, that we are the Lord's authorized earthly agency. And we might put that in writing. Or we might say that we are, quote, the leader of the Lord's people, right? And I'm going to share a screen again, just quickly, if I could. I want to find my PowerPoint, because I want to show this briefly. I want to show this. Oh, am I showing this chart of the ages? Okay. So there's something else that happened in the gospel age, brethren. If you look at this chart, and you look at this chart, there's a pyramid here that resembles this pyramid to the right. And this pyramid to the right is the pyramid that shows that there will be a divine administration up here, descending down through layers to rest on the perfect, the finished product of the earth restored over here. This is something that the adversary recognized was coming. And so he steps in ahead of time and he installs this papal pyramid here. It's the Antichrist papal pyramid with the Pope at the top and the hierarchy of papacy below it. And they create dark ages for the world of mankind. So if we wanted to view ourselves, any of these truth groups, in this way, as I just mentioned before, as Jehovah's Witnesses certainly have. You see this little mini papal pyramid, or gospel age mini papal pyramid, I'm calling it. So, you know, that does happen because people get the feeling that their close association with grandeur or with, you know, precious information make them something special. And that's why I began by talking about Florence, because that's a kind of an example of what happens to us if we aren't vigilant. So I would say, let's us be careful to not have that happen to us. We have a leader. It's Jesus. He is the spiritual leader of the Lord's people. We're supposed to be, and that's why we're supposed to try to follow in his footsteps, because he's out ahead of us and he's going where we want to try to go. So everybody's entitled to their own opinions about what their role in life is. But I don't think I know anybody outside of Jesus who rightfully claims to be the leader of the Lord's people. So with that, I would say, may the Lord overrule me if I've said anything untoward, but may he add his blessing otherwise.